Great to see a few familiar faces here, lots of new faces. I know there's a lot of familiar faces out there in the virtual universe. Looking very forward to getting the full contingent back together next year, right? Puerto Rico or bust. Looking forward to it. So here today to tell y'all a little bit about our 2023 client workshop series, kind of what the genesis of that was, what went into the planning, and ultimately what we learned from it and how we're leveraging that data now. Before I get into the meat of that, just a little bit of a background about WithersRavenel and who we are. We're a 100% employee-owned provider of multidisciplinary engineering services. We are founded in 1983, so we just celebrated our 40th anniversary this past year. Founded primarily as a land development firm, but in the last 15 years or so, we've worked very diligently to sort of diversify our business line, diversify our revenue stream. And right now we maintain a pretty even 50-50 split in terms of generating revenue from both public and private sector clients. Right now we are up to, I think, about 430 employees thereabouts as of today. That represents tremendous growth for us. At the end of 2019, we had about 195 folks in-house. So we've almost doubled in size here in the last three and a half years. Definitely a challenge here in terms of how we continue to maintain and expand upon CX as a culture when we're dealing with that volume of new hires. As I mentioned, we're North Carolina founded, North Carolina focused. Research Triangle is our home. We have 3 offices, including our corporate base here in the Raleigh metro area, 6 other regional offices around the state, and our asset management and managed services business lines are now reaching clients nationwide. So a little bit about our client experience program. I think we sort of, I guess, unofficially began probably all the way back in 2015, 2016, something like that, thanks in large part to effort of our Chief Experience and Innovation Officer, Eddie Staley. I'm going to say we officially launched in 2020. That's when we were designated as a company profit center. Started to have dedicated full-time CX employees, including yours truly, who was one of the first external strategic hires brought in to help seed and grow this group. 2023 was a big year for us. We were designated at that point as a company practice area. We also segmented into public and private market facing units. We're currently staffed with a total of 8 team members that make up the entirety of our team. It's not mentioned here, but I'd be remiss if I didn't take a moment and give some kudos to this group. 8 folks, we make up a fraction of our total employee count, but at any given time, this group is managing either directly or indirectly north of 20% of the total fee we have under contract. And so I can't say enough good things about their level of dedication, just how good they are at what they do. Definitely not afraid to put in some hours. And so as a result, I think as a group, we are punching well above our weight in terms of the impact we're having company-wide, and that's starting to manifest itself and show itself in a number of ways, not the least of which is our annual firm-wide NPS, which here in the last several years has ranged kind of in that 70 to 77 range. So getting into the meat of our topic today, same to so many of y'all, we're constantly looking for new and better ways to ask that all-important question of our clients, how are we doing? Secondary to that, and a theme that we hear common over several CXps conferences now is, how do you make CX truly cultural? How do we make this a core cultural component of our business? How do we get our doers to buy into what we're doing and buy into these kind of continued and ongoing CX initiatives? So one of the ways that we found, I would say, tremendous success and sustained success on that front is through the use of client workshops. This is something that prior to 2023, we dabbled in a little bit, kind of on a one-off basis here and there. We'd had good success, but in late 2022, we started to think a little bit specifically about what was the best parts of those past events we could do. How could we parse those, package them all together into one, we'll say, standardized format that we could take on the road, as it were. And so that's ultimately what gave rise to our 2023 CX workshop series, where we collaboratively engaged our clients and our project managers on a series of 4 CX workshops. So, the genesis behind this, or where we really started out, was, okay, how do we take all of that client feedback survey data we get? How do we take that and bring it into a real-time, face-to-face setting where our doers get to hear firsthand from clients about what day-to-day life with a consultant is like? What does it look like from the client's perspective, right? We'll talk a little bit more about the kind of the structure and the planning of these in a moment, but generally we tried to set them all up all the same, where each event featured a moderated client panel. Didn't want to miss a sales opportunity with a captive audience, right? So we did bring in our innovation group, had them do sort of a quick hit session on new business lines, new product lines that we were rolling out, especially things that would be of interest to the panelists we had in the room that day. Also a great opportunity to educate our staff, particularly our new staff. There was a social component to every one of those, whether that was kind of a meet and greet lunch, cocktails afterwards, some way to get our staff and our panelists interacting with each other in kind of an informal, off-the-cuff setting. And then the last official exercise of every day was sort of a thought and an ideation exercise, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit as well. So in terms of the when and the where, set out to do these on a quarterly basis. We pretty much hit that goal. We wanted to meet our clients out on their turf, as it were, right? We wanted to highlight for them the presence we had in their areas. We wanted to expose our regional staff to this firsthand, and so this is why we chose the locations that you see here. Charlotte and Cary carried some additional significance for us. At this time, we had been working on building a strategic presence in Charlotte for about 24 months. Charlotte is a brand new market for us now. So we were able to time the Charlotte event such that it served something of a dual purpose. It was both a CX event and a soft opening of sorts for us there. The Cary event, we also timed to coincide with the opening of our most recent regional office located in downtown Cary. The town of Cary has been a long-time client of ours and a long-time strategic partner. So we did this one a little bit different in that we limited our panel to strictly town of Cary staff. We had the mayor, the town manager, some other folks from across all departments there. And then we actually went out as well and brought in all WithersRavenel staff who do the bulk of our town of Cary work. And so we sort of elevated this to a gold level client workshop, right? Where we focus strictly on one entity. So a little bit more about how we set these up. We tried to keep our ideal client panel to about 4 to 6. We wanted a mix of both public and private sector clients, Cary event notwithstanding. Key to this was interviewing our clients our panelists rather, prior to the event. And so, one thing that was really integral in terms of making these things a success was getting the right moderator to lead these. And so fortunately, in our case, we didn't have to look far. We got one of our in-house business development representatives, a guy by the name of Jed Byrne, to do this. Some of my local folks may already be acquainted with Jed. Jed is a tremendously talented and creative individual. He writes the weekly Oak City commercial real estate blog. He developed and hosts the Dirt and Sea podcast. He develops and hosts the recurring WithersRavenel podcast. So first of my shameless plugs for the day. If you're not already following Jed, please do so. He's a great guy. He's got a lot of content. He's a content machine, actually, and I think he has the gift of gab, as it were, right? So he's a great choice to moderate these. Probably one of the biggest wins, in my opinion, when these were all said and done, we were able to have bring in well over 100 WithersRavenel staff to be a part of this and hear and learn from this firsthand. So I think that was invaluable. And lastly, we parsed a ton of actionable data from these in terms of lessons learned, mentoring opportunities, coachable moments, leads, opportunities. So all of that is now populated in our CRM. Our BD and CX staff are leveraging that stuff and using it right now daily in terms of driving some of the strategic pursuits that are underway right now. So as I said, we conducted some pre-panel interviews with our clients. We had kind of a standardized list that we worked from, communication preferences, invoicing preferences, that sort of thing. Wanted to set this up so that we could drive conversation in a good way and make sure that we had specific topics teed up that were relevant to each individual panel. The one question though, or the one advanced question that drove the most discussion beforehand and the most discussion during the panels was just this: what should your consultants stop doing, start doing, and continue doing? And so the feedback, there you have it in the flesh, right? A year's worth of work boiled down to a few simple bullet points there. Great feedback all across the board here. However, when you really start to read through this, I will be the first to admit, on the surface, some of this is not exactly cutting edge stuff, right? The very last exercise of every day was that kind of thought exercise and ideation exercise that I mentioned. And so we broke all of our staff out into probably about groups of 6 or 8. We paired them with a member of the CX team, and we paired them with one of the client panelists. Gave them a whiteboard, a marker, and said, talk. Y'all spend some time, talk about what you heard today, talk about some of the pain points, talk through these items here, and start to brainstorm. How do we resolve some of these things? How do we shape the outcomes that we want? How do we think proactively, right? When we stood back and listened to our engineers, our planners, our support staff ideating on these topics, what quickly became evident to us is that we had almost limitless opportunity for improvement. Coaching, mentoring, it was a long list. So ultimately, we took all this in-house. We boiled it down to 3 themes for the year, and here's what we got. Be a partner, communicate proactively, and focus on outcomes. We heard some of these earlier this morning, right? So this is our 2023 CX year in review. We took all this data, we compiled it into an internal company deliverable called just that, our 2023 CX year in review. It contains each of these broken down into some actionable CX fundamentals, right? Which our staff can practice and build upon day in, day out. We've also used this, or we're building upon these to formulate a number of our 2024 practice area strategic initiatives that are underway right now. So we're have an active passives to promoters effort underway right now. We're in the process of a revamped company-wide project scoping and kickoff procedure, as well as one of the outcomes of this. So I've got a ton more content I could go through. I would talk about this for hours if I could. But I know we've got some others who are itching to get up here and tell you all about some good stuff. So in closing, I'll say this. Got several of my staff here today, or our staff here today, that you can plug in and talk with a little bit more if you'd like to. I'm more than willing to talk through all of this and take a little bit deeper dive into exactly what we did and what we gleaned from this. And by all means, I would say don't let the conversation end today or end here. I'm easy to find. And so please, at any point in the near future, reach out. I'm glad to talk. Last 4 years, we've had a hell of a ride, I think, in terms of getting our program propped up and running. And so I'm more than willing to talk about any of that and share some notes about our particular journey and where y'all might be. So thank you.